Hi everyone, welcome to our panel discussion on future-proofing yourself. So looking at skills and things that you can develop in order to make sure that you are ready and future-proofed against the fact that I think the statistic is 85% of jobs that young people will go into in 30 years' time don't exist yet. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. You can see we have our lovely panel here. I'm going to introduce myself properly in a little bit, and I'm sure everyone will introduce themselves as well. We've got Ambrose, Maria and Jonathan here with us today. So just to start off with, this is me, an enormous picture of my face. My name's Caitlin. I'm teaching and learning consultant at the London Connected Learning Centre, which is an education charity based in South London, and we work with schools and teachers looking at digital skills, creative digital and embedded computing throughout the curriculum. My connection today is through the Tech Pathways London programme. You will see that logo cropping up on a lot of my slides. And that is a programme that I'm project managing through the CLC that we're running as part of the Mayor of London's Digital Talent programme. And Tech Pathways London is about training educators, so anyone who works with young people, to help them develop the skills and the knowledge that they need to best help young people go into digital careers. That's our logo. Look out for it. The website is techpathways.london. There's an awful lot of really, really good resources on there. But one of the main things that we've been doing is going around and talking to people in industry, people who work with digital in their jobs, and asking them how they got there, what skills they needed to develop in order to get to where they've got, and any advice they might have for young people. So we've got a lot of those interviews on our website. Do go and check them out. But we've found some interesting findings off the back of that. And one of them is looking at what digital jobs actually are. So this is kind of a question for anybody in the room who's over the age of 25. What did you want to be when you were a kid, when you were 5 or 6? You don't have to tell me, but it's worth thinking about what that job would have looked like then and what that job would look like now. Because whatever it was that you wanted to be when you were 6 probably didn't involve computers, and probably now does, even if it's not considered a traditional digital role. And this is what we hear all of the time from the people that we're talking to through Tech Pathways London, that basically most things, most jobs, most careers now require an element of digital skill. So it's really, really important. But then we start to think about what constitutes a digital skill. Sometimes, yes, it's the hard programming, it's the engineering, it's the coding, it's the real true computer science. But actually, the skills that we keep hearing about over and over again are a little bit more nuanced than that. So on my next slide, I'm going to show you some research that's done by the World Economic Forum around the skills that employers were most looking for in 2018 and looking at the trends into the skills that it looked like were going to be most in demand by 2022. It's a slide full of words, but if you have a quick look through them, you'll see that the technology, design and programming is on there by 2022. It's really trending in, but it's only one of that list. Everything else on there looks like what people might call a more soft skill. So interpersonal skills, problem solving, project management, all of those things are being identified as the real important kind of developing skills that we need. So you'll hear more from my colleagues here on the panel about kind of what that looks like in industry, but what I thought I'd show you is what I think that looks like in education, because that's my perspective. So I've taken the top kind of 2 from the in-demand skills trending 2022, because actually top 1, analytical thinking and innovation, top in both of them, still need to be able to do that. So I'm going to just delve into the top 2 there, and then I'll hand you over. So thinking about analytical thinking and innovation, what does that actually mean in practice? What can we start doing, and what can you as young people start doing now to kind of best develop and gain those skills? And this is what I've come up with. Thing number 1, practicing developing a growth mindset. That idea of trying stuff even though it's hard, of recognizing that just because you can't do something now doesn't mean that you won't be able to do it in the future. It's the idea of yet. Like, I can't do it yet, but I might be able to do it in the future. keeping that mindset is absolutely crucial. Curiosity, want to know stuff, follow your interests. If something is kind of sparking something in you, go out and work on it. This is what we hear kind of over and over again from these people that we're speaking to in industry, is saying, oh, well, I didn't start in this career, but actually this little bit of my job interested me loads, so I went and followed that, and that's how I ended up where I am now. Willingness to, adaptiveness, which I did check in is a word. I'll look into that a little bit more on the next slide, but that idea of not fixing yourself, not rooting yourself in something and not being willing to change and explore. You'll be asked a lot, what do you want to do when you grow up? The answer is probably about 20 different things over the course of that time. You don't have to make that decision at 20 of what you're going to do forever, but do something that sparks you, that encourages your curiosity, and that's going to take you on to the next step, whatever that next step is. Willingness to ask questions, accepting that we don't always know the answers. That's very hard for me to say as a teacher, but a really, really important one. And the thing that I've added at the end there, critical literacy, the ability to look through and evaluate information that you're seeing, to take in and kind of analyse the huge amounts of stuff that gets thrown at you on a daily basis because you have a smartphone in your pocket and a laptop at home. Being able to kind of critically evaluate what you're seeing, the information that you're being given, and to be able to use that to your advantage. And my last slide is kind of addressing the second bit of that labour market intelligence. It's this idea of lifelong learning, and I think chatting to the other panellists, you'll be hearing about this a little bit from them as well, but not ever stopping learning and developing and growing, taking every opportunity that you can to reskill, to retrain, take those moments of curiosity and really run with them. And I think that is kind of the most fundamental skill in terms of future-proofing yourself, because if we don't know what jobs are going to look like in 30 years, what we need to do is be willing to adapt, to change, and to keep learning and growing in order to kind of grow along with that market. So that's enough from me. I'm going to pass you on to Ambrose now, who, oh, hello. That's not what it says on the next slide, but that's okay. I'll tell you what, I'll flip back to picture of our faces. There we go. I'll pass you on to Ambrose. And Ambrose is the skills manager at HS2 Limited.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I have a question for you first. How many of you had not heard of HS2 before coming to this session today? Okay. How many of you off the back of that did some research into HS2? Okay. There's your first lesson. We've got Vodafone and Facebook represented here. Everybody's heard those companies, but those aren't the only kind of companies that will offer opportunities to you. So always make sure you're prepared. Always make sure you've got your eyes open, because you never know where that opportunity is going to come from. So HS2, we specialise in engineering and construction. We are building a new railway line that will go from London to Leeds and Manchester. It is the biggest railway infrastructure project in over 100 years. So it's a massive project, and it will last for at least 20 years. What has engineering and construction got to do with digital and tech? Well, quite a lot, actually, in terms of the work we're doing to design the railway and build it. We're using increasingly technological methods and practices, whether that be VR, AR, drone technology, cybersecurity, general IT, CAD, building information modeling. There are so many different kinds of opportunities that are going to be available. At the peak construction period of our project, there are going to be over 30,000 jobs across London up to Leeds and Manchester. And we want to create 2,000 new apprenticeships. 20-year project, as I said. I can't tell you what jobs are going to be around in 10 years' time. But what you've got to do is to make sure you position yourselves to ensure that you can access those opportunities. So I'm going to talk you through some of the things that I've learned in terms of my career. The job I do is around trying to find the right people to go into all those opportunities. I've been doing this kind of work for about 10 years, so I've learned quite a bit along the way, and I'll tell you about some of the stuff that I've learned. Number one, identify what you love, identify what you're passionate about, and you can turn that into a job and a career. Don't follow the money, make the money follow you. Most people, or a lot of people, take a job because it pays them well and they're miserable. You're going to be working, unless you're lucky enough to win the lottery or make your millions in some other way, you'll be working for probably about 40 to 50 years. You want to enjoy what you're doing. You'll spend most of your time at work, so make sure you enjoy what you're doing and you're passionate about it. Number 2 is about failure. Don't fear failure. We all fail. The important thing is what you learn from those failures to turn that into a success. Most successful people in this world have failed. You may well see them at their most successful, and you won't see the hundreds of times they've failed before they've made those failures into a success. So never run scared of failing. Just make sure you learn from those failures to turn that into a success. Number 3 is around work experience. You have to make sure in terms of positioning yourself, you're getting work experience that's relevant to the job or career you want to do. Because it's not just about the qualification you get, it's a very competitive labour market out there. You need to find the things that are going to set you apart from everybody else. And having that work experience that's linked to the qualification you're trying to get, or the qualification that you do have, is one of those things that can set you apart. The next one's networking. Once you get to a senior level, if you've got aspirations to get to a senior level, it isn't just about what you know, it also becomes about who you know as well. The reason I'm here today is because I know people. They invited me to be here today. The job that I do requires me to talk to lots of different people, whether they be MPs, local councillors, chief executives. I need to know people to make that happen. I need to know people to have doors open for me. It's really, really important. The next one, which you can't get past, is hard work. We are all talented. We have all got a talent. But you need to turn that talent into a skill. And you only do that through hard work. And you can't run away from that. The last one is that, and it alludes to what I said earlier about you guys working for between 40 to 50 years. It's a marathon. It's a hard grind. And there will be times where you don't want to kind of continue, but you have to. I went to university, got a good degree. I was told by my parents and my teachers, that's all you need to do. Go to university, get a degree, you'll be fine. Wrong. I spent a year after graduating working for Ladbrokes, not Ladbrokes the head office, in a Ladbrokes betting shop, processing invoices for a year. I then spent a year after that working in a finance department, just processing invoices. Not great work, it was mundane. It took me 2 years after graduating to get a job that I felt justified me going to university. And now a few years down the line, I'm now a senior manager working on the biggest infrastructure project in Europe. And there's nothing special about me. I'm just a black boy from Hackney. 2 working class parents that wanted the best for me. You know, there's no privilege to my backstory, but through the things that I've just said, I've been able to position myself to get a good job and be on a good career pathway. And if I can do it, you can achieve not just what I've done, but you can surpass what I've done. And that's all I want to say. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much, Ambrose. Next, we're going to hear from Maria, who is the Head of Commercial Partnerships at Facebook. There we go.
I'm glad I'm not last, because then I'd be stuck with stuff to say. So good luck. I'd be like, oh, what they said. Hi everyone, I'm Maria. I work at Facebook. I'm 8 months pregnant, just in case you're wondering why I look so wide. And so standing for long periods of time isn't also a strong point either. This is my last speaking opportunity that I'll be doing actually. At Facebook I get to talk loads, which is awesome, which I love doing. I get to meet a lot of young people as we have a lot of interest of people who want to work at Facebook. Like my fellow panelists, I think I don't really come from anywhere very special in terms of background, pretty standard, average Northwest London lady. I went to university, but it wasn't something that was really high on the agenda. I'm the youngest of 4. And my dad's from Nigeria, so we were going to uni. There was no real option. Any Nigerians in the house? Yeah, good luck. Your path has been set. So I never really had the whole conversation of, do I even need to go? Could I do an apprenticeship? What's this all about? It was done. And none of my brothers or sisters had become doctors or lawyers or engineers, so the pressure had been lifted because it didn't really matter what I went as long as I went to uni, and I did. And I went to uni and I studied advertising and media production, which at the time wasn't really a strong course. It wasn't something that, you know, your parents said at dinner parties and everyone was like, "Ooh, that's quite impressive." It was a bit strange. My dad was like, "So you want to be on TV?" Not really, but okay. And I actually went to university in the Midlands, which again, for a Londoner, at the time, everyone's like, how far north of the M25 are you going? And I didn't know many people when I got there. I think I knew like one other person, and there were no black people, like none. There were no black hair shops, there was no black food, there was nothing. So it was a real culture shock for me, but one of the biggest things I learned from university was how to engage with different people and how to network and how to meet different people and learn about different cultures. And it was something, I remember my flatmate threw away one of my plantains because she thought it was a moldy banana. Oh, yeah. And when I had bopped all the way back down a 2.5 ride to go get that plantain, needless to say, I learned a lot about confrontation management. And she learned a lot about what plantain was, which changed her life. They also didn't realize that supermalt wasn't beer. Took them about 6 months of me drinking supermalt during the day for them to realize, oh, Maria's not an alcoholic, that's a malt beverage. And all of these little things. And I genuinely didn't understand people with accents from Manchester or Leeds or Liverpool. I lived with someone for about 8 months who was Liverpudlian, and I would just be like, sure, yeah, because I didn't know what they were saying. But I very quickly learned all these different cultures and different ways of going. And I'd say that's probably the biggest thing I learned from university. My course was pretty interesting, but when I graduated was the year Facebook began. So when I did a degree in advertising, there was no digital course. There was TV and radio and print. Needless to say, I left my degree going to work in technology, not knowing a thing about technology. Somebody had made me a MySpace page, and I thought I was legit, and there was no LinkedIn, and I started, my first job was in a web development company as an intern. And I was there cutting out press releases and designing Yellow Pages ads. No one knows what Yellow Pages is in here, but designing those ads are not very glitzy. It's basically a massive directory. Imagine if Google was printed. That's basically what it was. And it was only by chance that somebody said, oh, yeah, that's going to take a while unless you know how to code. And I was like, no, but can I learn? And they were like, I don't know, can you? I was like, I don't know, what is it? And I learned how to code. And I didn't realize what I was learning. I didn't take a degree in computer science or anything like that, but I knew I needed to do this in order to get my project done. And it was only afterwards that I realized, hey, I've just built a website from scratch. That's pretty important. That's pretty cool. And I just went deeper and deeper in. And as you were saying, following your curiosity and actually just carrying on learning means that you very quickly go into different directories that you never thought you would end up in. So needless to say, I had a creative and advertising degree, but I had a coding knowledge, which is very hard to find people who have both. You're either left side of the brain or right side of the brain, or very mixed up and you're both. But it was a skill set that actually landed me at Facebook, because when I saw the ad online and I thought, sure, that looks like a cool place to work, the thing they said to me was like, we're really curious about your CV. It looks a bit strange. It looks a bit different. How have you got this advertising side and this engineering coding side? And that's actually what got me in the door. It wasn't the fact that I got a great degree, because I didn't have a great degree, or from a great university, because it wasn't a great university. It was the fact that my experience of the jobs I had taken were very different to make me stand out from all the other applicants who had your bog standard degree. So I'd say my biggest learnings are, one, always be learning. Making sure if you see something that you don't know, or somebody says, oh, you need to do this, don't let your default answer be like, well, I don't know how to do that. You guys have something that we didn't have when we were younger, which is called Google and YouTube. So to learn something, you guys don't actually have to go to university to become an expert in something. Two, the technology that you guys will work on doesn't exist yet. Facebook didn't exist. So if I had said, I want to work at a social media platform to my careers advisor, they would have been like, what the hell are you talking about? Because it didn't exist. So don't worry so much about where you're going to work. It's what are you going to do and how are you going to do it? And you'll find your place in the end. And last but not least, don't let anyone throw away your plantain. Genuinely, I could have said nothing and been like, no big deal. But actually, I chose the moment to have this conversation with my flatmate, who is from Liverpool, to educate and let her know what that food was, how important it was to my culture and my family, and the 2.5-hour trip I had taken to get that plantain from Harlesden. And actually, it opened up a whole relationship, and barriers were pulled down that I didn't have before. And I say that to you guys because I'm looking at a sea of brown faces in this room, and those are the kind of conversations you're going to have to start getting quite comfortable with as you progress through your career, because you won't always be in a room where there are so many people that understand that joke. So where you can, have those conversations, because believe me, the networking side of things, which is so important, is really hard to do when you don't have much common ground to talk to the person about. So those would be my tips. Thank you so much for listening, and look forward to
Thank you so much, Maria. Right, we will move on to our last speaker before the Q&A, and that is Jonathan.
I've got an applause. Hi, everyone. So I wanted to talk to you guys about the past, present, and the future with regard to digital marketing. So just wanted to quickly talk to you about who I am. I'm Jonathan Brown. I currently work for Vodafone Global. I'm a personalization consultant, and I've been working in digital marketing now for about 11 years. Since everyone else has done this, I'm going to tell you what I studied. I studied advanced vocational IT at college, and I moved on to do a HND in computing, and then I did a BSc in business information system design. Okay, so just a little bit of context to who I am. So what I wanted to talk to you guys about, obviously this is about the future, upskilling yourself, future successes, etc. When I graduated from university, this is the landscape that I had to work with. So I started in digital within ECRM, working for these sorts of companies. As we can see, it was EDR, which was a very small digital marketing agency based in London. And I moved into ECRM in Nectar, which is a national brand. I then moved on to become a project manager at Microsoft, and I worked there for 3 years. And then I moved into PPC and SEO. After that, I became an insights analyst working in data at Samsung. And then I moved on to their creative agency, which is called Chael, and stayed in data and became a channel analyst. And then I got an opportunity to move into another area of digital marketing, which is very prominent. And I'm going to talk to you guys about that shortly. I became a marketing technology consultant or senior manager, and I'm currently a marketing technology consultant now at Vodafone. And the reason why I wanted to show you guys this timeline is because something that you guys have already spoken about is about going into the unknown. So when I graduated, I actually was working in HTML and coding and validation and all of the sort of hands-on heavy back-end technologies that were available to me at the time. But then, when I left that sort of world, I had the opportunity to go into project management. And I just thought to myself, it's Microsoft, why not? When I went to Microsoft, that company opened so many doors for me. And again, it was something new that I'd never done before. So I thought, cool, I'm going to go into that. But then after that, I worked in that business for 3 years. And it was a very creative environment where I had to meet many different people, work with creative agencies, and be in a room like this and brainstorm all day. But what was missing was data. So I couldn't talk about data. I could talk to you about if you guys gave me a brief and I had to come up with ideas, I could do that all day long, but something was missing. So then I had the opportunity to go into PPC and SEO. And that was the opportunity to work in data. And data at that time, which is 2013, again was being generated, but not in the way it's being generated today. So I worked in that role for a bit, and then as you can see from 2013 to 2018, I worked in data for about 4 years. So as you can see, I'm now starting to build a repertoire of a skill set that is very diverse but very applicable to the industry, because when you go into different businesses and they say to you, okay, so you know CRM and you also know project management, so you've got a way how to manage particular businesses and business problems, and as well as add in the data layer. So you're now starting to build out the strings to your bow, I think the term is. And then lastly, I became, working in marketing technology. So now I'm currently working in a space where I'm consulting 11 markets across EMEA and APAC as to how to manage their marketing stack in the business for Vodafone. So my takeaway from this is literally, don't say no, but don't stick. Oh, I've only got 1 minute. Really? I've just started. Okay, let me just shut up and keep going. So the future as I know it, okay? I talk too much. Right, so everyone, this is something that I've come up with because I'm very much into future technology, and I think it's very important that this is where you guys are going, whether you like it or not. This is what the future looks like for you guys. And I'm not sure that you've seen it as explicit as this on the screen. So obviously we've got coding. That's something that's always been discussed. We've got voice recognition. Everyone's talking about Amazon Alexa. But did you know that Amazon's best-selling product last year was a voice recognition microwave? Just as an insight, exactly. Oh, some of you are like, what? We've got augmented reality, Pokemon Go, but obviously that's now moving into mobile phones and fashion. And, using IKEA, picking up the phone and having a sofa put in your front room, for example, and you just lifting your phone and seeing that. We've got blockchain advertising. We've got digital screens, the Internet of Things, data analytics. So we've got a wealth of future technologies that are going to be coming to you and for you, and you guys are the future. Now, I just want to say one more thing. With every single vertical on this screen, there's going to be account management opportunities, there's going to be consultant opportunities, there's going to be marketing technology specialist opportunities. Everything will have its own vertical in itself. So just imagine when this matures into the actual marketing world as we know it today, there's going to be a ton of opportunities. So do consider that. And thank you. I'm going to stop now because I talk too much.